Good morning. Okay, I grew up in church, and when you say something to the crowd, you talk back. I said, good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know. This feels like we're not awake. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. I'll try it again throughout this in case, it's 10 a.m. on a weekday. I get it. It's hot outside. I thought it couldn't get any hotter, and Atlanta never disappoints. So thank you all for coming today. I want to just start by reflecting on my first year of organizing. So when I started organizing in Jacksonville, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida in the house. When I started organizing in Jacksonville, Florida, I was asked to go and sit in living rooms across the county to understand people's stories. At the network that I was in, we were kind of dropped in a city, told to build a base in a few months or you're fired. And so I got to Jacksonville, and I sat in over 100 living rooms my first summer there. Living rooms, front porches, different church halls, synagogue halls, mosques, to get to understand people's experiences in our community. And what I heard time and time again is about systems that were supposed to protect us that were killing us. People told me stories about sitting in an emergency room as a Black woman trying to advocate for yourself, and the hospital doesn't believe that you're in pain, right? They're talking about being trapped in the criminal justice system over and over again, and it being a lineage that's in their family, right? Black people were telling me about their experiences with jobs, not making enough to make ends meet. And as they told those stories, I also realized that many of them lacked an imagination that the world could be different. When you ask them to dream about what they want, it was difficult. It's not because the dreams aren't there. I have a 4-year-old son who often has these wild imagination things that he tells me about. And sometimes I mourn the fact that as adults, we can't tap into that, right? And so many of the people that I spoke with couldn't imagine a world that could be different. And even if they had an inkling of imagination, they couldn't see a path forward. And we're here because the Black economic agenda is an answer to a lot of the dreams that people talked about my first year of organizing, but also in the last 2 years when we surveyed 211,000 Black people across this country through the Black Census Project. Our sister organization, Black Futures Lab, took it our second time to talk to Black voters across this country, because we are not a monolith. There are so many people talking at Black people, about Black people, and not to us. And it's so important that we tell the story of what we want, how we want it, when we want it. One thing that I realized from that survey, Black people don't trust anybody. We don't trust the police. We don't trust the federal government. We don't trust corporations. And that's because they have harmed us, and they have said that they're going to deliver for us, politicians, and they don't. And so the Black economic agenda is an answer that if we can get organized and if we can build power, that we can actually transform Black communities. Amen? And when we think about transforming Black communities, what's really important is that we go beyond just the election. I believe on November 5th, we will elect the first Black woman into the White House. And, okay guys, we've already talked about this. We are going to elect the first Black woman into the White House. And because we have record Black turnout, we are going to transform state legislatures. We are going to change city councils, school boards, because it is not just about this presidential ticket. It's about every single election down that ballot. And so we're going to be talking to Black voters about that and turning them out for that. And when we do that, we will win. But it doesn't stop on November 5th. November 5th gives us an opportunity to have a safer place to advocate, a safer place to be able to fight for what we want, but the work really starts on November 6th. The revolution is not online. I love all the TikToks that I'm seeing and all the memes about this election, but the revolution is on the ground, and freedom for our people is us organizing every single day in communities that have been forgotten, especially Black rural communities in the South, especially Rust Belt cities in the Midwest. I'm a Dayton, Ohio girly, in the Midwest. And so it's really important that we go beyond November 5th and that we have an agenda that we can organize around. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. And so I wanna thank several people, and I took my notes to make sure I don't forget anybody. First, I just wanna give a shout out to the Black Futures Lab and Black to the Future Action Fund team. So Denzel and Sam and Alexis, Natisha, Belen, and Belen's our PR firm, but she's a part of the team. And I wanna thank our beautiful Mix and Entrance founder, Alicia Garza. Who it's her vision and her imagination that got us here, that allows us to be able to have our second census and our second agenda. I also want to thank the 211,000 people that shared with us their dreams and the partner organizations that some of them are here right now that helped get those census surveys. Yes. I want to thank our speakers, Alicia, Trae Crockett, Kendrick Sampson, and Conscious Lee, who are going to grace this stage in a few minutes, as well as Dawn. So Dawn Richard, fun fact about Dawn Richard, it's not a fun fact about her, it's about me. So I went to a New England university that wasn't a real safe space for Black girls and Indigenous girls to go out and party. And so my senior year in college, we were really excited about the Danity Kane album, and we had all the choreography and all that down, especially to the Damaged video. And we had named our apartment the Dollhouse. There was a big sign. There's a big sign on the front door called the Dollhouse, and people all over campus started making signs like, "Come to the Dollhouse. That's where Black and Indigenous girls can have fun and party safely." So I thank you for that safe space, and as well as being here and emceeing today. And thank all of you for waking up on a Thursday, is it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday morning. This election period has been crazy. This Thursday morning, being with us, celebrating with us this launch, and hopefully building power with us. And so I'll invite Dawn to come up. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everybody. How are you? That was an amazing story. My name is Dawn Richard. I am an artist, and I'm also the Artist Relations Director at Hip Hop Caucus. You're probably wondering why I'm even here. I want to first thank B2F for having me. I want to give you a quick story before I introduce you to what will be going on, but also my organization. I am from a group called Danity Kane. I then went into a group called Dirty Money. And then after that, I became an independent artist, a musician that built my career for the last 12 years, kind of like a small brand, with many ups and downs along the way. I've been able to sustain my career for a very long time. But what's ironic and also what speaks to safe spaces and what speaks to Black political power is I also went through Hurricane Katrina. I am a survivor of Hurricane Katrina. And mad love to my New Orleans and Louisiana people. I am from New Orleans, Louisiana, born and raised. And I documented that on the show as well. People saw the reality that I actually went through it. I was on the television show, but also homeless at the same time. I lost everything in the middle of the show. And what I witnessed was, yes, a hurricane, but also a lack of Black political power, a lack of safe space, a lack of people who cared about us at that time. There was a Congress and state legislation that just wasn't for us. The levees broke. The hurricane didn't hurt us. The levee system and the infrastructure killed us. And so for me, one of the organizations that was on the ground was Hip Hop Caucus. That is how they were started and founded in 2005 by the founder, Reverend Leonard Yearwood. Never would I think that then 19 years later, I would become the Artist Relations Director, but I knew as an independent artist, what I did not get from the machine as an artist was an opportunity to connect with safe spaces. You become a commodity and a product, but they don't teach you how to become an innovator and a role model. And that was really important to me. So as an independent artist, I sought out a safe space, and the Hip Hop Caucus became that for me. And my pledge was, if I had a platform that I'd finally built on my own, I would give back to the city that gave me everything, but also we lost everything. And so now I'll give you an introduction to how great the Hip Hop Caucus really is. The Hip Hop Caucus is an organization at the intersection of culture and community and activism. The Hip Hop Caucus is more than just a beat of a movement. It is a powerful voice of change and leveraging the influence of hip hop culture to inspire and mobilize young people, especially BIPOC communities. Founded by Reverend Leonard Yearwood, the mission is to create a more just and sustainable world. The Hip Hop Caucus harnesses the energy and creativity of hip hop to advocate for social and environmental justice. Through initiatives that address critical issues such as climate change, racial equality, and voter empowerment, the caucus empowers individuals to take action and make a difference. From organizing impactful campaigns to partnering with artists, influencers, and Hip Hop Caucus influencers and more, Hip Hop Caucus bridges the gap between grassroots activism and broader public, ensuring the voices of the marginalized are heard and respected. So basically, we are partnering with organizations and safe spaces like B2F to build better communities for us, by us, okay? So thank you for having us here. Thank you for having the Hip Hop Caucus be present in this space. And thank you for having a girl from the Lower Ninth Ward who lost her grandfather in Katrina, who lost her dynamic of a family in Katrina, to be able to sit here and then speak about her story, and to not only speak about it, but implement change in that process. So in a bit, we will be having a fireside chat with Alicia Garza, Consciously, and Trae Crockett, love Trae, and Kendrick Sampson. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because again, this is the reason we're here. We're putting forth the opportunity to change at state level, federal level, and beyond, right? Grassroots to the suites. That's the important part, right? Is that we do it, we meet each other where we are. That's the only way we can do this, if we meet each other where we are. Now, I'm excited to introduce Alexsis Rodgers, Political Director of Black to the Future Action Fund, who will tell us more about the Black economic agenda. Thank you for having me.
All right, good morning, y'all. See if y'all woke up since Kristin. Good morning. I'm so excited to be here. As Dawn shared, my name is Alexsis Rodgers. I serve as the Political Director for Black to the Future Action Fund, which basically means that I get to talk to legislators and community members about why this agenda is so important and why they must deliver these results for Black communities and community with all of you. So thank you for being here to learn a little bit about it. I also wanted to share a little bit about my story, and I'm grateful that Dawn and Kristin opened us up by sharing theirs. In 2020, anybody remember that year? Right? We were all finding ourselves in different places, dealing with an economic crisis, a new momentum towards organizing for Black lives and against police violence that our communities were facing. And in Richmond, Virginia, where I'm from, our mayor, yeah, okay, shout out to Richmond. Okay, Richmond. I never get a shout out for Richmond. I'm shout out for home. In Richmond, where I'm from, we had one of the worst crises when it comes to police violence. Every day when we were organizing in the streets, demonstrating in support of Black lives, of us to live freely, right? The police were gassing us, shutting down the streets, saying that, oh, we need to have a curfew, da-da-da-da-da. And, I'm a political person. I have relationships. So I called up our mayor's office. I called up our Commonwealth's attorney. I was like, look, let's get this together, right? Like, this can be better than what we're experiencing. No. They shut me down. They didn't want to meet with me. They didn't want to meet with the ACLU. They didn't want to talk about how we could allow protesters to demonstrate peacefully and be respectful of that. And so I said, well, damn, I'm gonna run for mayor. And I ran for mayor, and the reason why I share this story is the first time when I ran and I called Black Futures, and I said, I know y'all have some resources for candidates like me that want to be aligned with the vision of freedom and liberation for Black people. And they said, well, we got a Black agenda. And I said, well, show me the Black agenda so I can make sure I'm standing on business. And y'all, I came up just second, but I shared that to say, we want legislators and policymakers all across the country to be coming to Black to the Future Action Fund and asking us, well, what is the roadmap that's going to make sure that we are delivering for Black people? And that's what we're going to get into today. As Kristin shared, this policy roadmap was developed straight from our community, straight from the voices of individuals that you all helped us speak to through the Black Census Project. We went from there to deliver this. So I'm going to pull out my fancy clicker here and let's get into it. So why do we need a Black economic agenda? First of all, again, this is the most comprehensive policy agenda that's derived directly from the voices of Black people. More than 200,000 Black people took the Black census, and we started with that to decide what we need. As you might imagine, most people were talking about the economy. It was the #1 issue that was popping to the top. And of all the issues that we asked about healthcare, we asked about police violence, white supremacy, we asked about voting rights, right? All the different issues that we talked about, the economy is what bubbled up to the top. And what we realized is that a lot of these issues, and you all know this full well, these issues are interconnected. So we can solve for housing, but if you still don't have a good paying job, you might still have an issue. Or we get a good paying job, but the healthcare system is so broken that you still can't live fully and freely. So part of the reason why we developed the Black economic agenda in the way that we did is that it's comprehensive. It's not just saying economy means wages and jobs. We understand the economy also means, can you get to work because you have childcare that you can afford, and the childcare worker is also being paid appropriately, right? Okay, I hear an amen in the back. Okay, yes. And so this Black economic agenda is a comprehensive series of policy items, and we have to make sure that legislators, especially this agenda is focused on state and local legislators, that they understand that it's not okay to check one column, that we really need to be moving in concert with activists and advocates to move forward on all fronts at the same time, right? And we know also through the Black census that Black people believe, despite all we've been through, despite all the systemic oppressions that the government has put in place through rules and policies, that Black people still believe that there is a role for government to do good, and that we do want to see investments from the state, from our cities, from the federal government to deliver on these items, right? And so let's keep getting into it. Again, we started with the census. In our census, we did notice that there was a little underrepresentation in communities that we really wanted to make sure we heard their voices, including Black men, Black people that live in rural communities, Black people that make lower incomes. And so in order to elevate their stories and their experiences, we also hosted focus groups to really get into what is their lived experience and how do we make sure that this economic agenda is fully reflective of that. We moved from there to also get a little more insight from people that have been doing this work on the policy, right? Talking to our partners that have been a leader on reforming our tax policy, and talking to leaders who have been advocating for workers' rights and passing comprehensive legislation on housing. We wanted to make sure that we weren't starting from scratch, right? That we're drawing on the expertise, many of you who are in the room, and those who have been doing this work on the ground. And then finally, of course, we put the paper to work. And you all have here a summary document, which shout out to our design and comms team for helping us execute just a beautiful, beautiful summary document. When you're ready to really get into the meat of it, y'all, it's a 60-page document that you can dig into where the policy really comes to life with more case studies. And so there's a detailed agenda on our website. I'm just going over the highlights this morning. blacktothefuture.org is that website. Okay, here's a quote from one of our focus groups. But again, all of us are living this day to day. We're seeing the prices are going up, and the wages aren't always going up to meet that, right? And so we got to make sure that as we're advocating for this, we're understanding, again, the community that we're fighting for. So let's get into it. The first category is on wages and worker protections. And again, we all know that the wages ain't meeting the cost of living, right? When we did the census, there was a great demand. I want to say about 80% of Black people supported raising the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. Now, by the time it was time to actually put out this policy agenda, we decided to raise that up to $17. And our policy agenda also calls for indexing that towards the actual cost of living as it goes up, so that policymakers don't have to continue to raise the minimum wage, that we raise the minimum wage, that we put it on a path to continue to support working families. We also know that workers need better rights and working conditions, and specifically that some of our most vulnerable populations have the least protections on the job, talking about domestic workers, care workers, farm workers, right? And so our policy agenda also calls for strengthening workplace protections for all workers, as well as making sure that if you need to take time off work to care for your loved one, take care of a sick person in your family, welcome a new child, that you have access to paid family and medical leave. Moving on to the thriving community section, this is really talking about healthcare, childcare, housing. We want to make sure that we are stabilizing the childcare market by investing resources and making childcare more affordable. We also need to make sure that childcare workers are paid fairly, right? And again, they have protections on the job. We need to invest in housing affordability. That means models at local governments like housing land trusts, and making sure also that we're zoning in a way that allows for communities to build and create more affordable housing in the market. And we know about healthcare, and Black people are overwhelmingly living in the few states that still have not expanded Medicaid. So we know that expanding Medicaid is a game changer for creating access to coverage. There's still improvements that need to happen to strengthen our healthcare system, but we know that Medicaid expansion is a big deal of that. So that's part of our thriving community section as well. And higher education. We know that college is too damn expensive. Student loan debt has crushed many of our families and our economy. We need to cancel student loan debt. We need to make sure that community college and college is free. We need to invest in HBCUs so that the disparities that have been there are addressed. You'll see all of that coming alive in the Black economic agenda. And the last pillar here is on budget and taxes. And y'all, we know that for too long, our tax system has been built on the backs of working people, and we need corporations and the most wealthy folks to pay their fair share. So we are talking about reforming the tax system as part of our policy agenda as well, and making sure that people like us and people in the community have a line of sight and transparency into the budgeting process in their local governments and their local communities, right? It's our tax dollars. We need to see that that money is going to work for us. And a lot of governments don't have in place systems where people can actually participate in the budgeting process and see where their money is going. That is something that we're calling for in the Black economic agenda as well. And so as we move forward, we are going to get into a little more conversation about how all of this comes to life, how it's real in our panel discussion. But I did want to just put up here the names of some of the individuals who helped us take, again, the agenda from concepts from the census into how do we make this actually policy items that can be actioned. Because that's the other thing, y'all. We are visionary. We are bold. We do want to make sure that this is an ambitious agenda, but we need to deliver results today for Black people, right? And so we wanted to make sure that this was an agenda that could be passed, that people can actually do tomorrow in states like Georgia and North Carolina, Louisiana, where we're on the ground. And so I want to thank every single person that's on the screen, each one of you that are here today that helped make this agenda possible. And I want to turn it back over to our lovely MC who's going to introduce our panel. Thank you so much.
Hello? Okay, good. So thank you, Alexis. The Black Economic Agenda is powerful. This agenda that was designed for us and informed by us, and we need to make sure elected officials and candidates around the country know about it and recognize it. So make sure y'all post and do all the things, talk about it, be about it. Now, to dig more into what it means for our communities and for our country in this moment, I am excited to introduce this amazing conversation. I'm happy about these people in this panel. So super excited. Alicia Garza, founder of Black to the Future Action Fund, please come up. Kendrick Sampson, actor and activist. Conscious Lee and Trae Crockett. Join us in welcoming them now. Come on up, beautiful people. Your braids are gorgeous. Come on, more. Kendrick, you are the best.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. Put the beard up.
Oh, is that a video? Right. I was like, what's happening? How y'all doing? Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all
Good morning. How everybody
caffeinated?
doing?
Y'all had coffee and whatnot? Okay, good. You know, I got mine right here. I go nowhere without it. All right. Well, I have been looking forward to this conversation. And there's a lot going on in the country right now, y'all. I couldn't think of a more important conversation than the one we're about to have right now. I also think this is an important conversation because oftentimes when we are talking about black folks, we're not talking with black folks. Oftentimes when we're talking about black political power, right, we're talking wrong about the role and the impact of black men. So we're gonna sit up here and have a conversation with some brothers about black political power and the black economic agenda. You ready for that? Y'all ready? Okay. You don't seem ready, but we gonna get ready. All right.
Wait. Can we do a little, I'm just gonna do a test real quick. God is good?
All the time.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was awake. No justice?
No peace.
No justice?
No peace.
All right, okay. I was just making
We in the
sure.
right
I was
room.
just making sure.
We in the right room.
Oh,
We in
yeah,
the
okay.
right
I was just making sure they was awake.
You know, I appreciate that. All right, so I'm here with some of my favorite thinkers, influencers, and people who are really trying to make sure that we on point. You know what I mean? So we're gonna just rap for a little bit. Y'all ready to rap?
Yeah,
All right,
I'm ready.
Cool. Well, let me start off by just asking, Kendrick, I want to ask you, and to kind of continue on in the panel, talk to me a little bit about, in this moment, why is black political and economic power so critical?
Why
Just
is
a
it
small
so?
question.
Why, yeah, small. Yeah,
Just a
let's
small
start
one.
light. Why is black economic and political power so important right now? I mean, I want to focus on the moment, but part of focusing on the moment is just not losing sight of the North Star. I think, you know, it's always important. I think what happens to black people and how black people organize is other communities look at us and look to us for how we're gonna, how enraged we're gonna be, right? How we get out of certain situations because we're gonna feel it first. We're gonna feel the worst of it first. And be disproportionately affected by it. And I think right now, I want to focus less on economic and political and focus on power.
Come on.
Because I think a lot of us lost the lessons that came out of and that informed the Black Power movement because it was more about reorienting our relationship with power and making us comfortable with talking about power as if we deserve it. Make us comfortable and confident and grounded in what true power looks like. The power is not in politics. Politics is what's between power and the change we want to see, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I think we need to get better acquainted with Black power, reorient ourselves with how we're going into spaces and demanding. You know, it's just weird right now that everybody, I'm not gonna say everybody, but a lot of people are acting like the world ain't on fire. Literally. We out here like, wait, don't say that way. They might not respond well.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Have they ever?
respond. Like, the world is on fire. This is the response. This is the response to us, the organizing that we have done, to be as bold as we have been. Imagine what happens when we get much bolder.
Right.
So a lot of that is about protection. I mean, it just gets down to some very basic things of, you got 24 hours in a day, you got 24 hours, you got 24 hours. If the three of us band together, now we got 72 hours, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's power. Power multiplies like that. Yeah. And the people that we call powerful are actually the people who hold the most unhealthy values. They are okay with hoarding resources and harming other people in order to appear more powerful, but they still have the same 24 hours in a day. They've just organized and extracted from everybody else's 24 hours and made them unhealthy.
Right. So let me ask you, Conscious, because I want to like draw this out in terms of personal stories, because you on point and you making sense. The math is math. But I want us to like feel that personally. So I want to ask you, is there a personal story that you can share that brings some of the issues in the Black economic agenda to light?
Definitely. Right now, there is a lot of conversations about stimulus checks and PPP loans.
Stimmies.
And as a result, you have a lot of people that's talking about being politically invested in what's going on, all in the name of the economy. To me, when I think about Black economics or Black politics, I think it's a double-edged sword for Black people, because a lot of us sometimes be miseducated on specifically what is going on when it comes to like the separation of power. So you think the president gave you, you know what I'm saying, a stimulus check, and really it was them over there, Congress or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's really thinking about how the right wing and conservatives have created, I'm gonna call it a alt-right pipeline.
Yep.
You feel me?
Yep.
And usually the pipeline starts on us having conversations about a gay agenda. See what I'm saying? The pipeline get opened up because it's like, all right, now, a personal story right now is I talk a lot about if some of us ain't free, then none of us ain't free. This goes for all Black people.
That's right.
There are certain people in our community that is invested in always already being on top of somebody else, and they cool with, excuse my French, shoveling shit as long as somebody is under them. See what I'm saying? That right there has, to me, created a way that politics has really where we pushing white supremacist agendas under the guise of being pro-Black, and a lot of my fellow Black men is doing it. You feel me? So for me, it's really thinking about how can we parse through the miseducation and make it where we're not pushing misinformation at the fault of our own people, because that's what's going on right now.
Oh.
You know, from Texas, you feel me,
times.
and man,
everywhere.
Man, listen, there are a lot of people that's praying and hoping that people like me don't know what's going on. So they can spoon feed me something about how Trump is so great for the economy and how he's a businessman and how I'm a Black man by my business. I should care about him about his business. Whole time, ain't none of my business in the first place.
That's right. Come on. Basically, so I want to ask you, Trae, well, one, I'd love to hear a personal story that relates to the Black economic agenda. But I'm also curious to hear from you, why do you think this is important right now, given what Conscious was just talking about in terms of misinformation, disinformation, and really encouraging us to either go against our interests or just stay home, which is also going against our interests? There's a lot of questions, but I know you can.
So I'm going to address that, then I'll get into the story afterwards. But I believe that is important because honestly, you know, some weeks back or years back, I looked at politics as a negative thing, you know? So when you hear the word politics, it's like, oh, people that I don't trust, you know, things being done to me that are distasteful. But once I realized that politics is connected to economics, you know, and we are involved in this every day. You know, I have a child that goes to school now. That's childcare. I'm an educator, you know what I'm saying? So we get state and federal dollars that impact our kids, you know? So I think that if we are to educate our Black communities about how politics is just, it's a word. It's activities that happen in our government, and it influences our government in such a way that we need to be educated on how we can get involved so we can control and turn the tables on our own community, because it's not happening. We're allowing other people to make decisions for us. But a lot of that is due to people being miseducated or having the same negative connotation that I had, until I had to look at them like, okay, this is what politics is. This is what power is. And even the word power is not bad. It's the people that use the power for negative use. So we have to come together and say, hey, we have power. Everybody in this room has some level of power. You tell your child to sit down, they sit down. That's power, you know? So we have to channel that power in the right channels and inform and educate Black communities on how we can come together and unify and use that power for greater advancement of our community. A personal story, I just bought a home, right? And this is a true story.
Come on, homeowner.
Yes.
Yes.
Been living in the home for 2 years, but tripped out part about it is when we first bought the home, I took my income and I would pull the money out of my account and I would just, put it underneath the bed, just cash money, whatever. I didn't want to spend it. I didn't want it to interfere with bill payments, reoccurring bill payments, stuff like that. So by the time it came from us to pay the closing costs, the lenders did not want to take the money because they couldn't validate where the money came from. It's my money.
Right.
It is. I don't work for the mob.
Right.
This is not dirty money.
Right.
Or do you?
So we went on 2 weeks, and even people that gifted us money to pay down and put out on the closing costs, they had to get invasive information. I had to ask friends and family members, hey, can I get bank statements? Can I get this personal information from you? Though it's invasive, because they want to see where the money came from. Like, I work for the district. You see me depositing the checks. What difference does it make if I take it out and put it back in? The paper trail is there. So at that moment, I realized they don't want me to own a home, because they know that if I own a home, it moves me out of a renter's category, and I asset, and I own a piece of the land. Once I own a piece of the land, then I am potentially creating generational wealth. And if I create generational wealth, now I'm building a community of wealth. So you're trying to redline me and intimidate me from doing so.
That's right.
And it is even not about me like owning so many homes, but guess what? Now that I own a home, I have 3 kids. My kids know, hey, daddy bought us a house, now I'm gonna get me a home. And that's how we build, but they don't want that.
That's right. That's right. And then you're also building wealth, right? You're building wealth for your family, you're building wealth for yourself, and you're instigating generational wealth, right? And that is a threat to the current setup of economics in this country. I want to talk a little bit about what we do with all this, right? Because these are things we know. These are things we know. We know about needing reparations. We know about needing care. We know about needing better housing. We know about needing to make sure that taxes are fair. We know about all that stuff, right? But the question is, how do we get it from up here and in here to the rules that govern our lives? Okay, so I want to ask each of you to just reflect a little bit. What do you think we need to do to make this the laws that govern this country? Come on, Kendrick.
What do we need to do? I think we need to build new systems.
Yes.
I think we need to phase out quickly, maybe in one phase. I wouldn't complain, but phase out old systems and take the resources from those systems with the full power, the full confidence, the full grounding that those resources belong to us, and apply them, if they are healthy, to the new systems and throw out the old unhealthy ones. I think that we have to stop playing a game of the American dream.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing, and it's harmful, and it's been harmful, and
Let me push a little bit though, because yes and. Yes and. So I don't love capitalism.
Right.
I don't like it at all.
Right.
I had to pay for this space.
Right.
I
Amen.
had to pay to get over here.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
I don't have a car loan no more, but I did have a car loan.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about how we get to that vision. That's that big picture
And
vision.
I
love it.
know I'm long-winded.
It's okay.
But
What I'm trying to dig into is sometimes, and this is not what you're saying, sometimes when we say we have to disinvest from these systems, people think that means being inactive right now.
Right.
So I want you to just clarify, what do you mean
No.
when you say
Yeah,
disinvest from what is
well,
and
I
invest
mean,
in something
what we
bigger
do
and
right
better?
now is part of those systems. So if we're playing the game of the world is not on fire, if we're playing the game of this is not wartime, then we handle it differently. And I think that there are immediate needs that need to be met. If we're playing the game of survival and constantly going at a rat race and trying to get to work and survive, we forget and lose the North Star. And the North Star is what we need right now to make us healthy. And sometimes that's, do I have to pay for this space? You know what I'm saying? If we really need this to happen, where can we make it happen, right? Do other people have resources? What is your information that you have? Share that information. We have to be more connected than ever, which takes a lot of organizing, because when we connect, we bring a lot of the old systems with us in our thought patterns, in the games that we're playing of trying to hope for maybe the American dream might be real. You get what I'm saying?
I do. I love
think
what
we
you're
can
saying
play
about organizing.
the mutual the mutual benefit game, the mutual aid, mutual aid game. And those are the systems. When you think about, in a basic sense, what is needed right now, what is the information that is needed that will make sure that my cousin, bringing it like real ground level, Jamarcus, you know what I'm saying, was saying some wild shit at dinner last night. And he was talking like a white supremacist and didn't even realize my cousin's name is not Jamarcus. But I'm just saying, somebody, every once in a while you get somebody saying some weird stuff and you realize they watched one of them TikTok conspiracy videos.
Too much Fox News.
And they have the right intention. They were like, I know that you love politics and I saw this thing and you have to know about it. Yeah. And you're like, nah, man, what?
Right.
And treat it like it is without judgment of the person. And, sometimes you got to do judging. But, however, whatever's right, whatever lessons came out of that conversation, if they were super effective, then let's spread that. Hey, this is what was effective with this is what was effective with whatever. Yeah. And now they're on to Black to the Future. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying?
No, I do.
At a certain point, you share the resources, you realize y'all know the same people or that you have the same interests, you organize around those values, and I believe that in a very basic sense, once you systemize those things that make us healthy, the old don't make sense, it don't work, it don't fit no more.
I understand exactly what you're saying. Y'all got it? So I want to sum what you said. We need to organize.
Absolutely.
We need to combat misinformation and disinformation.
Absolutely.
By meeting people where they are.
100%.
And helping to walk with folks to where we all need to be.
Absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think there's something else beautiful in what you said, Kendrick, which is we have to start imagining what it is that we want.
Yes.
Right? And not be so afraid to break out of what is that we can't ever get to what it means to be free, live free, have a roof over our heads and eat and all the things. Conscious, I want to ask you the same question. What do you think it's going to take for us to get to making a Black economic agenda the rules that govern this country?
I'm a person that was really inspired by Huey P. Newton. And he said that power is the ability to define the phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner. To me, what that means is that if we can define a reality, a system, a structure, we can understand how it works, how we navigate it, how we, know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like the 2 E's, the economics and education. It's like, how do we get power for ourselves over education? How do we get power for ourselves over, the economy? And to me, that misinformation, disinformation piece, I think it's a lot bigger than we realize the reality that we live in right now. Our society cannot agree on the facts. You feel me? And because we can't agree on the facts, there is a lot of perpetual just misinformation that becomes very harmful.
That's right.
So for me, it's really just at the very pragmatic, you feel me? My motto was education is elevation. You said some things that were not true, or you believe in some things that's not true. Here is the evidence to help you define the phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner. And that's kind of, you know what I'm saying, what I said with that. But also thinking about the reality that we live in. Right now, my mother is looking at like 10 years in jail or 6 years of probation, right now. Right now, my daddy is also, you feel me, looking at, you know what I'm saying, incarceration. For me, real life, it's gonna come a time where they're looking for commissary, mail, and a release date. That's the reality I'm living in. I'm trying to think about how do my little cousins and my little sisters, you feel me, and people in the community that's gonna see my mama and daddy, or have seen them already go in and out of jail, like what does it look like to teach them about what's going on? You feel me? And doing it in a way where I'm not talking from like an academic Ivy Tower, but in a way where I'm like, Kendrick said, I'm meeting them where they at. And right now, I think that's really missing. I think that there is a lot of chastising, you feel me? Man, read this, I read more than you, you dumb, this, that, and the other. And it make it where it's discourage people. Or it make it where, you know, you went to college and you learned government. They did not. You shouldn't weaponize that against them, but you gotta meet them where they at, you feel me? And I think right now, our side is really missing on the messaging sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just I think that it doesn't register with folks that's eating sleep for dinner. That's it. I'm eating sleep for dinner and I'm worried about these potholes and I'm trying to figure out, should I pay the rent or should I eat? Right. You trying to tell me about something that's like that, I think that is what's missing, like from what we should do right now. That's, I know it's,
no,
but like, you know what I'm saying? That's, to me, that's what's missing.
I agree. So, here's what I love. I mean, I love a lot about what you said. I want to lift up a couple things to make sure we didn't miss it. You talked about how when we can't agree on facts, it's a problem. So y'all have heard people throw around the word fascism, authoritarianism. That's what that is, literally. When we can't agree on the facts, and then somebody swoop in and tell you what the facts are. And when it's fascist, what happens is that they then tell you, as a part of the facts, who your enemies are, and it's usually people who look like us.
Yeah.
That's literally what people mean when they say fascism.
Yeah.
So when we can't agree on facts, it means it opens up room for somebody to have power. And it's most likely not going to be us, unless we do what you said, which is organize. I also want to lift up something you said just about continuing to pay attention to how it is that we actually engage people. I've been watching the news for months. I'm a news junkie. Anybody else a news junkie? Just have it on in the background. See the same stories every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. But a lot of the stories in the beginning of the year were all about what black men was going to do and not going to do. How all these black men was going to go vote for Trump. How black men couldn't tell the difference between Trump and, at the time, it was Biden. But also about how y'all just weren't motivated. But I just heard you talking about, I'm real motivated. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to take care of my cousins, my siblings, my family members, and how am I going to make sure that they're not repeating the same path? That feels like motivation to me. So then the disconnect, right, is what's being talked about up here and what's being talked about where we are.
Yeah. And the suckers in between. Can't
the
forget the
the
suckers that's in
between.
between. That's the liaison between what's really going on and what's being said.
That's right.
We got to really acknowledge them, you know what I'm saying, where they at, and
That's
make
right.
sure. I ain't mean to just do it like, but listen,
but that's real.
suckers count. And what I know right now is they're usually the loudest.
That's right.
And what I know is when I'm thinking about my 17, 18, 19-year-old student, they the most impressionable for the suckers in the middle. The Kevin Samuels, Andrew Tate, these women better get in the kitchen, and the reason why black men down because women, that's the suckers we got to worry about.
Yeah.
And them the ones that's getting the little, you know what I'm saying, the youngsters.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Trae, I want to ask you the same question. What is it that we need to do to make this real?
So I'm big on unity, You know, I believe that before there's success in any type of movement, unity needs to take place. And I'm just going to say this because this is the God honest truth. I believe sometimes in the black community, we can be so divisive, and that can be systematic. You know, if you put us in the jungle, and you tell us to survive, eventually we're going to turn on each other because we have to survive, right? But I believe that, number one, we have to unify. When we come together, we can identify who knows what, okay? I'm pretty sure Conscious Lee has something I don't have. I'm pretty sure Kendrick has something that I don't have. So we can then come together and say, okay, what do we have in the room? And we unify, and then we can look at the agenda together and identify the issues. One thing I do like about the agenda, if y'all haven't read it, is the numbers don't lie. They have statistics in there. So we need to do the same. Let's look at the numbers. You know, when I teach my kids, I model, they take a test, and then we look at the numbers to see what areas of growth need to take place. We need to do the same thing. It's the same concept when we're trying to grow in this realm of politics or economics. Yeah. So we need to unify. We need to come together. We need to see what do we have in the room, because every person is a resource. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you have or don't have. There's something they can say. There's a position that they hold. There's money that they have. It's connections, you know? So there are resources and there's power in unity, because that's where the true power comes. I don't know if you ever heard of this Bible verse, one chase 1,000, other chase 10,000. So if we can have that same concept to unify, not be so divisive, because whatever happens to you affects me, all right? Whatever impacts her, affects her over there. We need to unify and keep that in mind as we're moving forward, so we can join together and band together and use our own resources to make our communities the best place. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight, but it needs to happen. But we got to start somewhere.
I love this. Come on, give it up for that. So I want to sum up, and then y'all got questions? Because I'm gonna turn to you in a minute.
Ask the question.
Get your questions ready. So I want to highlight a couple things that you said that I think are really important. Number one, numbers don't lie. Now, sometimes when we hear about polls and things like this, right, it's not the numbers that lie, it's the people who report the numbers. So sometimes you'll hear things like 87% of people want more police in their communities. And you'll say,
What people?
what people? And you say, well, who did you poll? Is it people? Well, people where? People in Georgia. Okay, well, people where in Georgia? People in Atlanta. Okay, but then who was in the sample? How many black people was in that sample? And they go, oh, well, it was proportionate to the number of black people in the country. I'm like, well, okay, now we're talking about something very nefarious. Because you just said everybody wants a thing, right? But you didn't qualify, well, who?
Right.
And where? And from what position? What I love about this agenda.
Yes, the Black Sisters Project. I was going to bring that up. And that's what I meant, y'all. I'm not talking about numbers from Timbuktu. I'm talking about numbers from our people, just like this. Go ahead.
We went directly to us.
Yes.
211,000 of us. Didn't tell you what to think, what to feel, how to act. Just said, what do you think? What do you want to see? And then built an agenda for us. And so when you talk about numbers not lying, I'm like, exactly. We already done told you what we want. And this is what black folks from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, et cetera, want to see for our lives. And the way that we get there, I really appreciated you saying we have to really invest in being a unit, like being powerful together, and not being divided by agendas that are not ours. I really appreciated how you said that. I want to turn to the audience real quick, because, you know, I get to talk to these brothers a lot, in my mind and in real life. But I want to give you an opportunity to engage, because maybe you seen them on Instagram, but you didn't get to call them up and be like, Kendrick, what's poppin'? Now, what do you think about this? So, any questions out here? Questions for our esteemed panelists?
So y'all all talked a bit about the divisiveness and disinformation that the black community is facing, but black men specifically. My question is, a lot of the times when we see people counter that narrative, it is in a bullying, really heavy social pressure lens. And I'm curious, what tactics have y'all seen work in talking to Black men who are struggling in that manosphere, and what's actually like getting through to them?
Yeah.
From me engaging different ideologies of Black masculinity, different positions of Black masculinity, I think that it works differently for different folks. But what I find is that that's like a consensus is the humanizing piece and trying to humanize whoever or whatever this group has unified and demonizing. Right now, I'm able to talk to a lot of people specifically about policy and how when we're in school, we're taught that the top of the policy is usually gonna be the sexy stuff. The fat in the bill is usually what's gonna come to get you. So what I found to be very effective is really asking, you know what I'm saying, them brothers, like, how much do you care about the Black reality? And then showing them that them folks gonna use your hate for folks inside of the community to take down the community. So now you gotta make a decision. Do you love Black people more than you hate trans people? Do you love the reality of the community more than you hate the drag queens? If how you respond to me, let me know where you at, but now you just said it out loud. Regardless of how they respond, I'm a former debater, by the way, you know what I'm saying? But regardless of how they respond now the burden of proof is on them, and now they have to process what's being said. So for me, it comes out to just thinking about community and really just asking, you feel me? A lot of times I feel like in different communities throughout our country, Black men, we're used to being pushed in a particular manner. That's what we're used to responding to. You feel me? So though sometimes the outside looking in, it may seem like very bully-like or very harsh, that's the message they're gonna respond to. That's the message some people are gonna respond to. But it's just like, you know, where we at? The other one is Christianity, you know what I'm saying? You say you over here because you a Christian or you because of the Bible? Well, I'm finna spit some of this back at you to show you that you contradict to what you're saying you oppose. Now you have to make the decision. Do you mitigate how you link to the criticism, or do you wallow in it? The last thing I'll say is, when you're doing this, you have to be cool with what you said, it not being effective. There's a time that I'm having these conversations, I have to prioritize my safety and my sanity, and I think that you just full of shit they flush down toilets. I'm no longer invested in trying to explain to you your mind made up. I'm finna move on. It hurts sometimes, you feel me? Because I never want nobody to feel like they're irredeemable. You see what I'm saying? But I'm an educator at heart, so it's like, hey, maybe I'm not the educator for you.
Yeah.
Maybe the way I've set my classroom up, the learning objectives ain't hitting you. The beauty about education, there are multiple teachers that seek the same subject, right? So just because my teaching style ain't for you,
it's somebody else.
So he might be, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like I learned when to pick that ball up and go home. Don't forget that part, because I feel like sometimes you can get exhaustion. We can deal with that, and it's like, man, now you exhausted. Now you can't do what you're supposed to do because you didn't argue with them about.
That's right.
It's trans women really women, and now it's like, I didn't show you, you feel me? Now it's like, I don't have time no more. I got other things.
We could.
Thank you.
We used to hear that was called "The Movement Moves Without You."
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, don't think that you the movement. Don't let your ego think that you the whole movement, and if you don't convince this one person, then ain't nobody gonna convince them. Don't take care of yourself, because you know.
That's right.
It'll keep.
There's more questions back here.
My name is Devontae. I like the quote earlier about the relation of power, that politics is in between real power and what we want to see. Engaging the political process is something that we must do, but I'm curious about what the alternative is if indeed politics is the thing that's impeding us from real change. Then what then? What is the alternative? How do we achieve the real power that we claim we want to see collectively?
So let me reframe that. Politics is what's between power. It's not what's impeding us to power. It's, you have to deal with politics. I know you were talking about politics in a very, governmental sense, but politics is in family. Politics is at the office. Politics is anytime it's between you and what the change that you want to see. So our power, we are the power, right? It multiplies when we add them up, right? If we all are in alignment and we go in the same direction, now we are more powerful, right? Because it's collective. Somebody is going to take advantage of that collective power. Somebody's going to organize it in a way, right? Once we agree on something and we say this is the type of change we want to see, enacting that change, carrying it out, is a very messy process. Who's going to take responsibility for what? Who's going to make decisions? Is the decision maker more powerful than the people who are carrying out the decisions? How do we govern that process? That's the politics. Even in family, you get a family reunion together, who's going, you know what I'm saying?
Man.
And a big part of that is what I think you were talking about with narrative, and I'm glad you brought that up. You know, I would be bad if I didn't say we got an organization. It's called Build Power, and our organization's mission is it's a 501c3, so you know, I'm not gonna say too much, but the mission is to reimagine and realize the liberated future we know our people deserve, right? And our power in my lane is storytelling. And so something about making this real, how we realize this, to go back to your question on that, I think we have to tell a different story. The way that I've been digesting it, almost like a meditation, is history, is patriarchy, white supremacy. That is who told the story. Because we have to think about who's telling the story. Who's reporting on the numbers is who's telling the story. Because people don't digest numbers and statistics. Numbers and statistics for us are what we've been forced to get to justify what we've been saying, that we know through story. The griots in West Africa thought that story was so important that they buried the griots above ground. They said, don't bury them in the ground because that buries our stories. They buried them in the baobab tree because it was going to nourish that story for the rest of time. Because baobab trees last for hundreds of years and they nourish, they hold nutrients and water. We don't understand the power, or they have made us trivialize. And I would say Hollywood needs to take a lot of responsibility for that, to make us think that art and story is just for entertainment. So they extract the purpose from it. But the story is what has always been our community's health metric. You know, how we understand our relationship to the land, how we understand our purpose in coming together. Why do I like these people? What is a family? What does that even mean? What's the story of our family? What is the story you're telling? I love that you kept asking, what is your personal story with this? Because that is what's gonna make this real for people, is when you apply the statistics to the story. You know everybody, this is the statistic. It's much more effective when you see everybody hand go up in the room, like when whatchamacallit, what's her name, was like, how many people in here think that America is a good place? Now, how many of y'all want to be black? You know what I'm saying? You see no hands, that's the statistics, right? You know what I'm saying? You're not going to read about that in the paper. When you say how many people know somebody or had a family member who died of cancer, how many people have been stopped by police or know somebody who has been killed or harmed by police, and you start to think about, it's not just the statistics, but it's, well, you know, I don't know him, but my cousin, I don't know him, but Randy's friend just last week. You know what I'm saying? Those are the stories that connect the agenda to real life. And those are the stories that they want to control more than anything.
So, thank you. We got time for one more question.
And that's why they trying to ban TikTok.
That's true. On top of some other things.
I hope I answered your question. I just wanted to clarify that.
I really want to appreciate what you said, Kendrick, about politics being everywhere and not just in elections.
Right.
Politics is who gets what, when, and why. Right? And that's happening in every place where people come together to try to accomplish something, whether it be a family, a community, school. There's always dynamics of who gets what when, and why? And the question for us is, how do we change it in every sphere? Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. Last question.
Oh, thank you. Hey, everybody. My name is Kiara. I really love what the Black Agenda has said about the intersectionality between like economics and healthcare specifically. I'm a healthcare justice worker.
Yes.
And especially being here in the state of Georgia with the lack of Medicaid expansion, it's affecting us in our hospitals. Our hospitals are shutting down. People don't have access to insurance.
Yep.
I just want to know, like, what are some ways you think we can empower people around the issue of healthcare and healthcare policy? I feel like the last time the Black community got riled up around healthcare was maybe like the ACA with Obamacare and Obama. And I feel like we might have a chance to do that again with another Black president running. So I feel like this may be a moment for that. And so like what maybe be some ways that we can get people empowered around the issue of healthcare justice and healthcare policy, especially as it relates to economics and other intersectionality.
Excellent question.
I would say like raise awareness, you know, and because I have health insurance tied to my job, but there was an experience when my wife had our last child that, you know, she was out for 12 weeks. You know, me being a father, I want to be there to support her because she had a C-section. So I only took 2 weeks off. So this is what happened. By me taking my 2 weeks off, it ate into her 12 weeks. We both work for the same district. I'm a father. We are two different people. Why are you making us one unit to where, you know what I'm saying? And we have to pay extra for that. So we need people like that with real stories like mine to advocate, hey, listen, I work here. I'm a working class citizen. This is what I do in the community, and this is not good enough for me, because that should have never happened. You know, so I believe that us raising awareness, right? Of course, talking about getting the statistics is already there, but raising awareness as to what's going on. How is it affecting people? Because let's also be honest. This system, they want workers. You want us to work for you, right? But I can't do the job you want me to do unless my needs are met. You losing money, I'm losing money. At the end of the day, you losing money, we both losing money. But it's going to hurt you because the level of production is not happening. So I think from a holistic view, even from my other counterparts, I'm going to say that too as well, they need to realize that what you do to me is ultimately going to affect your pockets.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that.
I think, so, you know, Malika Jabali, she's a really dope writer.
Yes.
And editor, and she would say, in order to meet the material needs of Black people, you would have to upend capitalism. And so they make us settle for hyper-representation or hyper-visibility instead, Black faces in high places. I want to lift that up. The first part of that, to meet the material needs of Black people, it would have to upend capitalism. I think, you know, tying that into story, I think one way we make that real is tell a better story. One of those stories that we got to tell is a common vision of what a healthy community actually looks like, and not a colonized version of that. Yeah. Like actual health, if you can meet the material needs of all Black people, which goes back to acknowledging that there are trans folks, you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
People with disabilities, people with mental health issues. If we actually understood that healthcare would replace prisons and police, we can see why they don't want us to organize around healthcare. And you could go, Sheila Jackson Lee was Medicare for all. She wasn't the most radical, you know what I'm saying? But she was out there talking about reparations. You know what I'm saying? These are things that are part of the agenda. You know what I'm saying? This is how you realize that healthy world. I think that we do have to tell, you know, the medical industry is not the best at storytelling. And we got to make those stories real and how that applies directly to us and how connected it is to the world that we need. The care that shouldn't be concentrated in these big institutions. It should be on every block. It should be so accessible that it is a part of our everyday lives and how we encounter each other. It should be spread out into resources in the communities and in the homes. We should have more power over our community's health.
And the ability to reimagine. I think that a lot of black people just accept the status quo of saying that the healthcare is always already gonna marginalize what I need. 2 + 2 is 4, dogs bark, them folks ain't gonna help me. To me, thinking about like reimagining the reality makes it where I reorient myself on what I expect and what I think I deserve. And what I find when it comes to the healthcare specifically, a lot of us just accept, a lot of us have internalized the black inferiority when it comes to that industry. So for me, it's like really reimagining what it looks like for my grandma to get affordable insulin, you know what I'm saying? And not where it's all marked up, you feel me? And really thinking about, you know what I'm saying, how people get things, but like, they supposed to get it.
Yeah, they supposed to get it.
And as we wrap up, it's also really important to know who's responsible. So here we are in a state whose governor refuses federal dollars for Medicare and Medicaid.
Socialism.
Right? They're refusing money to be able to expand care. I have a personal story with this because I have insurance. I got good insurance. And don't you know, I drove around on Tuesday trying to find an appointment to do like a basic checkup because something's out of network, and then you get to the provider, you get to the clinic, there's only 2 providers. So it's a 3-hour wait. And I'm sitting in there and I'm like, I can do this, but there's a lot of people who can't, right? And so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, who's responsible? Am I mad at the receptionist because I can't get it? My appointment's 2 hours late? No, you know who I'm mad at? Brian Kemp. Hella mad. He ruined my damn day.
Yes, he did.
He ruined my day.
Yeah. And you pay top dollar for your insurance, so we invest money into this.
I just got the
We
text,
invest
your
money into
prescription
this.
gonna cost $1,249.
Wow.
I said, no, it's not.
Yes.
Exactly.
Man, you invest in thousands of dollars into healthcare, but you still have a $70 copay when you have to see a specialist. It should not. That's just ridiculous.
That's
Sound
what
like a
I'm
finesse to
saying.
me.
It is. It's
Sound like a
super
finesse.
I know
So
what a finesse
if you
was.
don't, so here's where we want to wrap this up because we got things to do. If you don't like what's going on, which we don't, figure out who's responsible, who I got beef with. That's gonna be my whole slogan this entire election season.
Who we got beef with?
Who I got beef with? I know I got beef with Brian Kemp. Personally,
100%.
beef. I'm like, bro, you wasted my whole day. You costing me money.
Abbott.
Man,
I got
drag ass wow.
I got beef with anybody who's keeping me from the things I need to live a good life, and anybody who's keeping y'all from the things that you need to live a good life, and anything that's keeping us from the things that we need to live a good life. So there's lots of things we can do about that beef, including showing up on November 4th. Up, down, left, right, all around, do the whole thing. All right, y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I also just want to give a special thank you to these brothers, each of whom do the work and use their platforms not to sell stuff or talk about nonsense, but really to take the time to help us make it make sense so we can take action and do something about the things that don't make no sense. Thank you, brothers. We appreciate you. I think we got you doing something.
Can we give it up one more time for that incredible, man, wow. Thank you to everyone, Kristin, Alexis, and B2F for having me, for having us. I think the biggest thing I got out of this was our stories matter. Owning our narrative matters. It's been stripped from us from a very long time, and I think it's time we take it back. I think government and politics have done a really good job with messaging. They've been really good at telling and stripping people of their stories. If we can manifest and put our ancestral stories, our true stories back in front, I think the safe spaces will get larger. I think our organizations will get bigger, and our pride will really resonate to understand where we truly come from. I think we've lost our way. And I think hearing their stories is powerful. Hearing your story is powerful. So my call to action from you guys is, no matter where you go, tell your story, own your story, and share those stories. Alexis?
Y'all, one more time for Dawn. Raise your hand if you're going to commit to share your story with somebody about why this policy is important. Thank you so much for that commitment. Okay, she said more people need to get the hands up. Okay. We need hands up. We need hands up. This QR code right here, and on the screens behind you, will take you to a page where you can say, I'm in, that I support the economic agenda. I'm committing to share my story. I'm committing to advocate for this in my community. I agree that this policy matters and that we need it in our community. So I want everybody to pull out their phones, and if you're watching on the live stream, pull out your phone, scan this QR code. It's gonna take you straight to a form where you can add your name to endorse our economic agenda. I see a lot of people doing that, so thank you so much. We're gonna make sure that whether it's Brian Kemp or anybody else, that legislators and policymakers know that Black people are united, to my brother's point. We are united and we're organized, and we're going to do what it takes to win this bold vision for our community. So thank you one more time for coming out tonight, or this morning. Thank you for the Hip Hop Caucus, for the whole Black to the Future team. Eat some more eggs, get some more coffee, and let's have a great day. Thank y'all, everybody.